Welcome back everybody for another episode. Today we're going to be doing botany. So if we take a look over here. So over here we have one of the favorite meals of your giraffe. This guy's scientific name used to be Acacia carew. Now it is Vicilia carew because that name has been changed. Now, taking a look at these little leaves over here, these are what you call a bipinnately compound leaves. So very small little leaves to minimize on evaporation, but the whole leaflet itself is quite large to maximize on photosynthesis. So its scientific name, as I mentioned, is Vicilia carew because that's where it was first documented in the Karoo, but its common name is sweet thorn acacia. This refers to the beautiful yellow flowers that it makes during the spring month, which have a slight rose smell to them, a very sweet smell. But, as I mentioned, the giraffe love to eat these guys, but they got to get around these thorns. So this is the plant's mechanical defense, its first defense. But the giraffes, I don't know if you've seen, they've got these very long tongues. So they'll take their tongue, wrap it around the leaf like this, and going with the grain of the thorn, they will actually strip the leaflets off like that, avoiding the pricking side of the thorn. Other animals love to feed on this tree as well. If you look down here, you will see this tree produces the sap over here. Now, stuff like baboons will feed on the sap, as well as bush babies. And then there's South Africa's largest flying bird as well. Its Afrikaans name is gompo, which basically means gum peacock because it feeds on this gum. And its real or English name is your Cory bustard. So we'll put a little picture in of one of those guys so you guys can see what your Cory bustard looks like. And they will also feed on this gum as well. So behind me, this big beautiful tree over here is said to be your ancestor of your common olive tree. This is your South African wild olive. Now taking a look at it, you'll see the leaves are extremely similar to that of your domesticated olive, because as it's said to be an ancestor. But if you take a look at the fruit itself, it's much smaller. And also, unlike your domesticated olive, if you eat a raw one, it's rather bitter. These guys have got quite a sweet taste to them and a really bitter aftertaste. Now, what's quite interesting is these guys actually produce fruits more towards the winter months rather than most of your plants do in the spring months. So the advantage of this is it means that there's not many other food sources for birds at the time. So most of the fruit-eating birds will actually come and feed on your wild olive trees and thus spreading the seeds. Although the seeds are widespread by the birds, unfortunately for this tree, because of its beautiful wood, it's got a very tight grained wood. It is a very much poached tree. Tree poachers will actually poach them and steal the wood to make your traditional carvings and stuff that you find, and then also furniture and stuff like that. This tree that we're looking at over here, its English common name is a buffalo thorn. Its Afrikaans name is a little bit more descriptive. If you take a look at the leaves, you'll see they're quite shiny with a waxy texture. Now, the Afrikaans name is blinkblaar, which means shiny leaf, referring to that waxy texture, and waggebikkie. So, blinkblaar waggebikkie means shiny leaf, wait a little bush. Now, why it's called a wait a little bush is because of its thorn configuration. It's actually got two different distinct type of thorns. One of them is curved and one of them is straight. But we'll get back to that in a minute. So as we mentioned, the English name, buffalo thorn, Afrikaans name, blinkblaar waggebikkie, and its scientific name is Ziziphus macronata. Quite easy to remember because of the Z-shaped branches. Now, while we're on the Z-shaped branches, these plants are quite significant to your Zulu tribe. Now, folklore regarding this tree is that during King Shaka's time, when him and his warriors, his impis, used to go out and wage war against neighboring tribes, is if one of these impis fell in battle, they wouldn't be able to take his body back. Obviously, they didn't have means of transport, and they'd have to carry the body for days, which would end up not being so nice. So they would put this branch onto the impi's chest, and it is said that the hook thorn would actually capture the spirit of the warrior, and then the branch would be taken back to the burial grounds, the traditional burial grounds, where it would then be placed on the grave, and the straight thorn pointing towards the heavens will then release the spirit. It's also said that taxi drivers, if they see somebody carrying this branch, they will charge a full fee, because this branch must be treated as a person, as it carries the spirit of the person. So it'll have its own seat in the taxi as well. Aside from the folklore, like being able to carry spirits in the branches, and then also to be immune from lightning, do not test this theory. This tree is also said to be quite significant. If you cut the tree down, you will actually be promoting a drought for the next season, which you don't want. But moving on from the folklore, uses of this tree. The tree is very useful because it's quite a sturdy tree and also quite flexible. So it has been used to make tool handles, as well as big spoons for stirring pots, and then bows because of its flexibility. Medically, there are quite a few significant purposes for this plant. Like a root decoction can be made to treat pain. An infusion of the bark and leaves can be used to treat chest ailments. And then a personal favorite is, people have told me that you can actually chew these leaves. It's got the same chemical in as strawberries, which is said to be an aphrodisiac. So taking a look at this very pale tree trunk over here, this is your white stinkweed. It's called a white stinkweed, obviously because of the pale coloration, and then when you cut it, it produces a bit of a smell, hence stinkwood. But holistically, it's being used at the moment. It's a bit of a craze, people using essence of your white stinkweed. People say it helps to clear the system, helps them to feel a lot better. I haven't used it myself, but it is being used, your white stinkweed essence. Right guys, I'm picking up quite a strong smell. Well, not a strong smell, it's actually a faint smell of rotten meat, so carrion somewhere. So I want to just try and follow it. Maybe we've got a carcass here, probably a poaching, or maybe even a predator kill. Let's go see what we can find. Right guys, so not quite carrion, but almost. So we followed the smell. It's not a carcass, it's this flower. Now internationally, these are called African starfish flowers, but locally we call them carrion flowers because of the smell that they make. Giant carrion flowers, to be precise. Now, if we take a closer look at them over here, if we take a look at the plant as a whole, you'll see that it's a succulent, so a very fleshy plant. But moving down to its distinguishing feature, it's amazing looking flowers. Hence the name African starfish flower, because of the shape. And then locally, as I mentioned, it's called a giant carrion flower. I can't describe the smell to you guys. I wish it was smell-o-vision so you guys could have a smell. But yeah, it's a very stinky flower. And the reason for this is because it uses flies to pollinate it. So it'll attract the flies in by the smell. And then also, if you guys can see, it's even got hairs almost like a carcass. And the way that the flower looks and the coloration is just like that of rotting meat. Another handy tree to know when you're in the African bush, well, the southern African bush, is this tree over here. Scientifically, it's called your Peltiflorum africanum, but locally, it's called your African weeping wattle. Also, that's its common name. But us guides like to call it your bushman's toilet paper tree. So if you take a look here, you see it's got these beautiful soft leaves. So especially for somebody who's in need to go for a number 2, pick yourself some of these beautiful soft leaves. Obviously using it along the way that the grain goes. Give yourself a wipe and then you'll feel better. Not to get confused with your African weeping wattle or your bushman's toilet paper is this tree over here. Now if you take a close look at the leaves, you'll see they're very similar, but they've got these hidden little thorns between them. So very tricky to tell the difference between the two, but please be observant. That is your bushman's toilet paper, this is your mother-in-law's toilet paper. But its proper name is Acacia, well, hookthorn acacia, which has actually been changed to hookthorn Senegalese because the Australians have claimed the name acacia for their trees down there. Moving from down under to up over here, this is actually the same tree, but you'll see that the leaves are completely different. It's also producing these little berries over here. This is actually a parasitic plant. This is a type of mistletoe that has actually taken root in this hookthorn Senegalese, and is using it to get all its nutrients and minerals. So like a tick of the plant world. Yeah, if you're under one of these and you're with a pretty lady or whoever, it's tradition to give them a kiss. Another handy tree to know is this tree over here. Scientifically it's called your ruche lancia, but its common name is your career tree. Now these leaves contain very high levels of tannin in them. Tannins like you'll find in tea and wine. But what tannins do is they actually inhibit the digestive juices from breaking down the food. So it'll basically neutralize your digestive juices. Heartburn, acid reflux, indigestion, these leaves can be chewed up, and then you swallow the juice that comes off of them in your saliva. It's extremely bitter and dry, but it will help with heartburn and acid reflux and indigestion. I'm speaking from experience. I hope you all enjoyed this episode on botany. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, take it easy.